Hello, investors. It's Don Vandenbord, Chief Investment Officer with Revere Asset Management. Today is Wednesday, June 5th, 5:19 p.m. Eastern Time, coming to you from St. Augustine Beach, Florida, with the Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state, we've been in a trend for a month now. A little bit of weakness recently, but not today. Revenge of the leading stocks today. You can check the trend gauge over here. Four green arrows got a little bit better on the fine print today. Took off the yellow sub arrow for leaders after just a great day by leading stocks today, and some improvement relative to the 21-day moving average. Uh, Small caps reclaiming that level. Also, 50-day moving average. Small caps reclaimed that level as well, and the Dow and mid caps trying to get back above there. And if they do, the yellow sub arrows will go away and we'll be back to the coveted four green arrows with no fine print. Remember, the leading stocks never get into serious trouble. We give the market the benefit of the doubt, at least from a broad perspective, a index perspective, as long as we stay above its key long-term moving average, the 200-day moving average. But good to see the action today on the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 as they closed the new all-time highs, as leaders carried the torch, the baton, whatever metaphor you want to use, led the way. Big cap tech led, lead, AI data center tech after a rest, really a little bit more than a rest, a pretty harsh pullback for that sector over the last four sessions, back to being firmly green today. Here are the final numbers. 21 over 21 list up an average of 2.1%, 18 up and 3 down. The big eight, this is our, well, it's not, the big eight is the Magnificent Seven plus Netflix, led by NVIDIA, up 5.2% today. The Big Eight up 2.1%, led by the IBD 50, up 2%. The RG8 was up an average of 2% today. So when you see, this is like best case scenario, seeing the 21 over 21, the Big Eight, and the RG8 all up 2% or more. That's always going to follow through to the performance in GROTECTION, our flagship portfolio. S&P 500 opened up about 0.4%, pulled back a bit over the first 30 minutes, and then a 6-hour trend up was a thing of beauty. Closed at up 1.18%. Equal weight, not quite there, up 0.6%. The NASDAQ 100 up 2%. Equal weight up 1.55%. The Dow continues to be a relative laggard, up 0.25%. Mid caps up 1%. Russell 2000 small caps up about 1.5%. Global diversified 60/40 stock and bond up 0.8. Our flagship portfolio, GROTECTION, up 1.93% today. Let's take a look at the charts. Here's our inter-asset correlation, and this is after some tough intraday action over the last three sessions, meaning weak mornings as the bears tried to assert themselves, but the bulls came to the rescue each of the three times. And then today, bullish out of the gate, 30-minute brief pullback, and a trend update for the rest of the day. Very clear that we've broken out to new highs here on the S&P 500 and also the NASDAQ 100, same situation. Can't argue with that result, folks. I see a lot of people saying, yeah, but the equal weight. Okay, well, let's take a look at the equal weight S&P 500. Yes, we know that the S&P 500 is top heavy, and so is the NASDAQ 100. And we know that there's relative weakness on a broad perspective. But the benchmark is the S&P 500, and pay attention to what's going on in most of those names. You can argue about it all you want to. You can be bearish because of the relative strength of equal weight. You can point to breadth. The bottom line, the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 are at all-time highs, and we're focused on the leading stocks that are carrying those indexes to all-time highs. Equal weight S&P did regain the 50-day and the 21 today. And sometimes it outperforms, sometimes it does not. It normally outperforms during pullbacks, but it didn't this time as small and mid caps got hit more. Mid cap kind of stays more in sync with what the RSP does, but The bottom line is fish in the pond where the bass are, not where the minnows are. Dow Jones Industrial Average, as I said, relative weakness, but bouncing off this 38,000 level, closing right on the 50-day moving average. This actually looks a little bit like a bearish wedge, but um, we can't. The people that run the Dow are doing a disservice to anybody that invests in the Dow, in my opinion. Um, Mid caps, S&P 400 mid cap, closing right on the 50-day moving average, coming into the declining 21-day. This has been showing relative weakness as well. As I said, this really moves a lot like the equal weight S&P RSP does. Let's go to the Russell 2000. We took a position in this today. Nice line in the sand here to trade against. Couple of undercuts of the 50-day moving average, never lasted more than 1 day. Yes, we see the relative weakness, but hey, sometimes there's extreme relative strength in the Nasdaq in the Russell 2000. Look at this move from November to January. I'm not saying that that's about to happen. I'm saying that the possibility happens, and when you can get a good entry like this, it's worth taking the shot. And we've got a very clear and very close stop out level. But right now, small caps regain the 50-day and the 21-day moving average, and the risk reward is there for more upside. Um, that's the way we see it. That's the way we played it. All right. So, those are the five major indexes. Let's move on to the VIX. VIX down 4%, as you would expect with a strong day by the indexes. The US dollar up slightly, 0.18%, ran into the 200-day moving average. This is just after a pullback for about 3-4 days, this is just a mild bounce. Speaking of pullbacks and getting bounces, gold up 1.8%, reclaiming the 50-day and the 21-day moving average. GDX bouncing at the 50-day moving average, up 1.8%. And silver, which gave back the big two big gap up days, coming back near the pivot of this flat base here, gained today 1.14%. IBIT Bitcoin, third up day after bouncing off the 21-day moving average, up 1.2%. Really nice looking flat base here. I know Ted's so excited looking at this. He's just salivating, waiting for Bitcoin to break above 73,000. All right, on to BND bonds. Fifth day up on bond prices. That means fifth day of a pullback on bond yields. Broad bond index up by 0.28%. The long bond TLT up by 0.73%. Again, fifth straight day up there. So fifth straight down day on the long bond yield. Would absolutely expect some sort of a reflex bounce here. But the breakout in yields has failed and moved to a breakdown. TYX down by 1% today, and the 10-year TNX also down by 1%, fifth day down there as well. All right, that's our inner asset correlation chart section. Let's go to the tail of the tape. Before the market opened, ADP jobs report was weak. Market added to pre-market gains going into the open. After that, again, the market seeing, as long as there's some weakness in unemployment is seen as a positive sign perversely, because lack of wage inflation ultimately trickles through to the overall inflation numbers. And, Jerome Powell keeps telling us he wants to get inflation down near 2%, or at least headed that way. Day count from up 3 to up 4. Really nice 6-hour trend up, as I said. Back to the sectors. It was a tech move higher today, XLC and K. Semiconductor, software, biotech, solar, and gold and silver stocks. And the downside, defensive sectors, XLE, energy, P, staples, U, utilities, RE, real estate. So after basically 4 days of a rotation out of growth into value, straight back the opposite way today as value far outperformed growth. SPYG, the growth half, up 1.9%. The value half, SPYV, up 0.3%. And again, another reason why we use leveraged ETFs to invest in the S&P 500, as all of this rotation takes place within the S&P 500. And then when the market winds are at our back, we delve into leading stocks and leading sectors to juice the portfolio. A lot of changes today. Bought back into Crowd after its earnings report and a nice response to that. Initiated positions in NXT, Coin, and also TNA. We added to ONON and added to UPRO, taking our adjusted beta up quite a bit from 1.14 to 1.52. Bottom line on the day, gap up, trend up. Leaders reassert after a 4-day rest. S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 all-time highs. Let's take a look at some charts here, and we're going to go to the 21 over 21 list. We're going to discuss what we bought today and what was up the most in the portfolio. And this is sorted by price up on the day, and it's very nice to see. These are all green flags, which means we own them in-house. These things that were up strongly today. Let's start with CrowdStrike, and you can see after a tough sell-off on some negative reaction to other software stocks last week, came down to this 300 level. The initial reaction was negative to earnings yesterday, and then that was the algos. They do it all the time, take it down 1 times the implied move, and then a strong snapback after people started looking. Humans started looking at the fact that it was a beat and raise, and a very nice move up 12% today on CrowdStrike on 500% average volume. Love to see that. Next up, Micron, all-time highs. We own this. VRT, great comeback, back above the 21-day moving average after bouncing at the 50-day moving average. The absolute leader, NVIDIA, up 5.2% today and up nearly another percent after hours. Pure Storage, great bounce, up 5%. Next Tracker, we added this to the portfolio after a nice little lower volume consolidation around the 8-day exponential moving average, up 4.7% today. TNA, we talked about this, showing the IWM chart. Pava, bouncing off the 8, down 3% after hours, and we can't see, actually, I might have some news on it today. It was a form, somebody filed a form 144. Usually that means maybe insider selling, and sometimes stocks react negatively to that, but this is a leading stock in a leading sector in bull market, so we give it the benefit of the doubt. CEG, not quite reclaim of the 21, but bounced at the 50-day, up 3%. Coin, we added this to the portfolio today, up 3%. The action on this is pretty much going to be dictated by what Bitcoin does. We realize that, but this is a bit of a leveraged play on Bitcoin. And ONON, we added more of this to the portfolio today as well. Those are all of the leaders that we own. Well, let's add First Solar. We still have a position in this. Tried to break out, finished off the highs, but still up 2.6%. And the one loser in the portfolio today, ELF, down on below average volume relative to the recent up volume after it hit that 200 resistance level. Serious lack of relative strength the last 2 days, and we've got an eye on it, but it's just a starter position, down 2.6% today. We can't be perfect, can we? No, we can't. All right, and that's going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. The email is don@revereasset.com. The phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH. That's 855-732-5932. We'll talk a little bit more about this as the week progresses, but we're set up based on the daily stochastics for the RG8 and the Big 8 and the major indexes as they're coming off of oversold and hooking back up. The setup is there for higher prices. We don't predict anything. We interpret. We look at the primary indicators, weigh some secondary indicators, determine the line of least resistance, and put as much money to work as we're comfortable with based on what we're seeing in the market. And if things reverse, we detail it every night here. that our rules will take us out of the market because that would be the market telling us that something has changed. But for now, you can't argue with all-time highs. As always, like to hear from the emails, don@revereasset.com. My partner, Dan Stewart, dan@revereasset.com. The phone's 855-REAL-WEALTH. That's 855-732-5932. Remember, GROTECTION, our flagship portfolio designed to participate in market uptrends, protect your portfolio in market downtrends. We saw a little bit of a pullback over the last couple of weeks, but hey, in a matter of 4 days, back to all-time highs. And we started putting the gas pedal down again today. And if you're interested in a common sense approach like this, give us a shout. We'd love to talk to you. And with that, I'll wrap up the video for Wednesday, June 5th. This is Don Vandenbord with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening and have a great day.